Hello, Capricorn, and welcome to your July 2021 reading. Be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising sign for a more well-rounded generalized reading. And there is going to be links in the description box below should you be interested in something that's a bit more personal and individualized. All right, let's go ahead and begin. The first card that we have is the card of Garden, and this has to do with community. And I heard avoid, which of course immediately I'm like, okay, you have to explain that because that's not really, that's how do I work off of that? But in general, I just feel like you're being told to be very cautious of community events. It's not so much that you're supposed to avoid going to and participating, but just be mindful of your participation. Avoid getting caught up in something or aspects of it that deplete you of your energy. So be mindful of, I don't want to say be mindful of your place because that sounds almost derogatory, but that really feels like the best summary. Just be very aware of where you stand, and then therefore be cautious. Allow that to be a bit of a guide for any interactions and actions that you may take as a result of it. Just from perspective of self-preservation and safety, for whatever reason that word came up, I'm not quite sure. But you just really want to make sure that you are doing things in a way that allows you to be active, but also be safe. So I do feel like this has to do with a means of awareness regarding things that have been happening and that is not in the best interest for the community at large, but most people are not aware of it for some reason, for one reason or another, and your awareness has been piqued, but you're just being told to be cautious as you step and move through this. Not so much that you need to avoid it, you just need to avoid kind of creating a snowball that you can't stop. You are supposed to make a difference, you are supposed to be participating, but you need to be cautious in how you participate. So however that resonates or applies, just connect with that accordingly. We have trust your intuition. I feel like this is going back to this. So avoid snap judgment, avoid snap communication, avoid snap reactions. And it goes back to that whole concept of you want to respond, which usually takes a little bit more time and thought process versus react. And the trust your intuition is kind of tapping into that whole, take a step back, take a breath, make sure that you're responding and not reacting. And make sure that your response to things that are happening and going on in and around you is rooted in intuition, is guided by intuition and not just a visceral response. You're allowed to feel that visceral response. You're allowed to experience that and recognize that you feel a certain way about it, but don't instantaneously act upon that visceral feeling. Take time to make sure that the way that you move as a result of that visceral response is guided by intuition. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next card. And we have what you need to focus on. We have the Star card. Oh, you're really getting that. We're tapping into that guidance. So the North Star has to do with that. The guidance is the pole star. The Star card has to do with the North Star. So that guidance that you see, especially during dark times, when you think of the North Star and how it is utilized, or how we're told it's been utilized throughout history, it has to do with how you can be guided. By finding the North Star in the night sky, even when it's dark, you're still going to be able to be guided in what direction you need to go. This is that representation in the star card that I'm tapping into, especially in relationship with this card of trust your intuition. So you're really being told that you need to avoid snap judgments and snap reactions. You need to make sure that whenever you are participating in whatever it is that you're participating in and the actions that you take as you move forward, that you are doing so with steps that have been guided, that you have received guidance regarding those actions and the steps that you're taking. So very strongly tap into your intuition. So, yeah, and I'm really getting that heavy. This is still has to do with things that are happening within your community, within your neighborhood. What you want to focus on, we have the Empress, and I feel like this is the family is the first word that came to mind. Usually the Empress card, the first key word that a lot of people tap into is fertility. And this is true too, but from a family perspective. So this is kind of like creating fertile grounds for your family in the future. Doing what it takes right now to make sure that as far as family is concerned, you have good ground, good fertile ground in the future. I'm giving the garden perspective or the garden analogy about how if you are a seasoned gardener in the fall, you do things that allows it to the garden to break down and be nurtured through the winter, that makes it more fertile come springtime. So there are things that you do in the fall once you finish the season, the summer season, the harvest season. And that process and those procedures actually prep the ground during the winter. When it seems like you're not doing anything, the ground and earth is doing things. Those things that you do are working during the winter season. That actually makes it so that the ground is more fertile when the springtime comes. And this is the sort of thing that we're talking about as far as the actions and the things that you're going to be considering participating in throughout the month of July. It's not just things that you're going to be doing presently, but it's creating the scenario that allows for more fertile ground in the future, and predominantly it has to do with family. And it feels very strongly as far as family in regards to your descendants. So it's not just family as you and your spouse or that person that you're connected with on a spousal level, but also descendants, not just children, but your children's children. So there's a fertile ground work that you're participating, or potentially you will have the opportunity to participate in, which is why it's really important that you make sure that the steps that you take are guided, that you rely on your intuition and you rely on the divine guidance that you generally are used to tapping into to guide these steps, because the ripple effect isn't just here and now. The results of it isn't just here and now. The benefits of it and what's going to happen as a result of these things that you're going to participate in, they're not just going to take place and benefit the month of July or just the rest of this year. These are the steps that are going to play a part in not just here and now, but and tomorrow's far off in the distance, the tomorrows that are going to be lived through by your children and your children's children. So this is why it's really important for you to be connecting that intuitive spirit aspect to guide you with the steps that you take, because there are long-term effects from this, and you want them to be long-term benefits, not long-term, tower moments and chaos and what have you. What you don't want to focus on, Knight of Swords, you don't want to focus on just charging in and again, going back to that concept of reaction. You don't want to be having just only visceral reaction and then acting on those visceral reaction. You don't want to have that visceral response to things that you become aware of and act immediately. You want to be a bit more planned and again guided and by your intuition and that divine guidance that you generally tap into for these sorts of things. And I'm getting the overall sense that whatever's going to happen, whatever you're going to experience, when you experience this kind of awareness, when you come across this sort of awareness, there's going to be a very strong desire to just immediately just do whatever it takes and whatever first comes to mind. And this is the biggest key of this reading. You're really being told to not react immediately. Make sure you take the time to connect so that your response to this is going to have long-term benefits, not just for tomorrow, but for tomorrows in the future for your children. So like I said, I really do feel like that the reason why that this is being reiterated over and over again is because that there's definitely going to be, you're going to feel a certain sort of way about something that you're going to become aware of in the month of July. And it's going to be very hard to not immediately react. And that's the key message in your July reading. All right, Capricorn, I hope you have a very solid and rooted and divinely guided month of July. Be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising for a more well-rounded reading perspective. And if you want to have a more personalized reading, there are links in the description box below for that. And hopefully you'll have a great month, and I will see you in a future video.